So here we have the Toto F7 SE double din car stereo we will be installing onto the Skyline R32 there. And we also got a backup camera which is sold separately. Here we have the wiring diagram, which is so simple. It's pretty easy to follow. So here is the backup camera, and right off the bat this camera feels really sturdy. It actually has some weight to it, which is pretty good, but can't wait to put this one on the car, try it out. And here we have the backup camera wiring, which is a good amount of wiring if you ask me. Should be more than plenty enough to run it to the back of the Skyline. Also included in the box here is this extra camera, backup camera bracket I should say, which we will not be running this one here. We will be running the license plate bracket that it came with. I believe it suits the Skyline better, so we will not be using this one here. So now let's go ahead and get into the F7 SE box here, see what this box comes with. So first off, we have, of course, a stereo harness. And one really nice thing Toto did on this is they labeled each and every single wire, which makes the install that much easier. Here we have the microphone for the stereo, so you can make phone calls, etc., voice commands maybe. I don't know if it has that feature. But here we have what it looks like. We have brackets for the stereo here, the trim for the front face of the stereo, and finally we have the stereo. This thing looks pretty sick, I'm not gonna lie. And this thing feels really sturdy. This is like a huge plus. I thought, forgive me a Toto, but I thought this thing was gonna feel like super janky and cheap, but this thing feels solid. Oh, what do we have back here? Oh, I believe this is the wire for the Apple CarPlay. Yes, the stereo does come with Apple CarPlay and with the Android feature as well, to where you could see your map and your directions with your Android. But I have an iPhone, so I'm going to run with the Apple CarPlay, of course. So essentially it's going to go there, and I think it's going to look amazing. Yep, it's going to look good. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get started on this install, because I'm excited to get this on the car and try it out. So you guys saw the stereo. Now I'm going to go ahead and install it on to the Skyline here. Let me go ahead and show you guys what I have once again. So I have the backup camera, I have the wiring for the backup camera, a microphone. These are the brackets for the stereo. We have the actual stereo here. And I actually like this stereo because it's actually pretty thin. That's pretty cool. That's one thing that I really do like, and it actually feels like really good quality. It doesn't feel cheap. Even the camera feels pretty sturdy. We have the wiring harness here for the stereo. There is another wiring harness you do have to buy specifically for your car, and a double din kit, a stereo kit for your car. Luckily, when I had swapped out the OEM stereo, the shop that did it actually got the wiring harness for me for the car. I'll show you guys what I'm talking about as I go along. But you do need a wiring kit, a stereo kit for your car, which is not shown here. And then obviously the knowledge of putting the wires together. I'm gonna try to give you guys a thorough video on how to do this, but I'll try my best to record as much as I can. So I'm sorry if I miss a couple steps, but if you do have any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer them. So with that being said, I'm gonna go ahead and remove the stereo that's on there now. All right, so here we have my stereo, current stereo setup now. Let me go ahead and show you guys. This is actually, besides a Toto, we'll see how that one goes, but this is actually one of my favorite stereos here. That's why I haven't swapped it out. I love how you could change the colors and everything, but I believe the double din would be an extra touch to this. The only thing that sucks for the Skyline is that I will lose this compartment right here, but it isn't too big of a deal since I do have the center one here. So for the Skyline owners, in order to remove this whole setup right here, you got to remove the shift knob. But let me show you guys on mine. Mine has like an extra attachment to fit this one onto my OEM shifter, but this is kind of like tight on there, so I'm not going to go ahead and remove that. Plus my shift boot is all torn up. I need to buy a different one. This one was actually for the FD RX-7 that I just put on here for now. That's why it looks all janky. But yeah, I do need to get a new one. You see it just came right off. It's torn. It's terrible. So in order to remove this, there's one screw here, one screw here. So that's a Phillips head. Once we remove those, we should be able to pop this out of place, and there should be more screws here along the way. I'll show you guys once I remove it. All right, the screws are off now, that one and the one on this side. Now we pop this thing off right here, just like that, and we pull on this. Then you bring it along to the side, and there's some clips right here you have to disconnect, so disconnect those. And once you do that, there is a screw in here, another one in there, and another one up here, and that's for the metal bracket that holds this whole stereo setup in. So those are the only ones I need to remove. So there's another 3 on this side. I'm sorry for the lighting, it's kind of hard to see, so I'm gonna go ahead and remove those. By the time I'm done with all this, my light should be charged, so I'll be able to use that and show you guys a little bit better. So remember how I was telling you guys how there's a harness kit out there for your specific vehicle? Well, this is it right here. This is the harness kit. So essentially this is the harness from the stereo that was connected here, as you could see, to the harness kit for my specific vehicle. So these plugs right here plug directly to the OEM connections on the vehicle. These plugged up to the OEM stereo on the car, so these just plug right into that. So that is why you need a stereo kit, so you don't have to cut up these and try to figure out which is which wire goes where, because these wires are a lot different than the color of the wires on the stereo harness. So that just makes it that much easier. You just connect the colored wires to the colored wires on the connection. And every car has a installation kit, stereo kit as well, these metal brackets that help you put your stereo into your vehicle. But I believe these are OEM for my car. I'm not 100% sure. So the next step is, before I go ahead and start connecting wires, I'm going to try to hook up the stereo to here and try to see how it fits before anything. So after that, I'm going to go ahead and cut these wires here that were connected, crimped here. And I'm going to connect the stereo harness kit to the new harness for that stereo. So there's, I believe, 3 choices of brackets you could go with, and I'm going to go ahead and end up going with this big bracket here. So as you can see here, it lines up right with the stereo. Once it lines up, there's 3 holes. There's 1, 2, and 3 up here. You will use the smaller screws there. Use the tiny screws for those, and then you go ahead and use the rest of the screws to screw your stereo onto your brackets, which I will do right now. And they also give you the option of running these smaller ones here. You can see you can just run this small one here, but I'm just gonna go ahead and run the bigger ones, that way it has more support to the stereo. So I'm gonna go ahead and install this, remove this from this, and then install this stereo bracket onto our new stereo. So alright, so now the bracket is on with these 3 little screws. Now I'm going to remove the plate from the old stereo and put it on to the new one. I now have the brackets on. Let's go ahead and test fit this. Test fit this stereo, see if it fits or how well it fits. It's pretty good. Let me go ahead and throw this over. Oh yeah, that's actually gonna fit perfect on there. So now it's time to connect the harness for the stereo to the harness kit for our vehicle. But first, there is this pink wire here, and this pink wire goes to the rear view camera. So we gotta find the side that's for the stereo. So this is the side for the stereo, and the way I know is because the camera has 2 plugs, and there's 2 plugs on this end, so that is for the rear of the car. This means this is for the stereo portion of the vehicle. Here we will hook up to this pink wire here, and then the red connected with the red to the red on the harness kit. In order to connect these 2 together, we will be using these butt connectors here. So I'm going to go ahead and connect the pink to the pink using the butt connector. Then from there, I'm going to go ahead and hook up the rest of the wire harness together. Of course, it's color coordinated, so blue goes with blue, green with green. There are some wires that have a line going through them, like a black line, so just pay attention to that. Make sure you're hooking up the one with the black line to the black line, and then the solid color to the solid color. The stereo harness is now all connected and now all wrapped up with electrical tape, just so it looks that much better. Here we have the cable for the backup camera, which has a red and a pink cable. The red cable goes to the red red cables on the harness. The pink goes to the separate harness that leads to the back of the car with the camera. So here we have the connections that plug into the OEM part of the stereo for my car. Here we have some cables that were left unattended. Just put a butt connector to them and tape them up, because we will not be using those because our car does not have that feature. My car does not have the steering wheel feature, which these cables connect to, so that's why we will be leaving those alone. So here is the negative cable and the parking brake cable, which is a brown one. I connected them together so that videos can be played out of the stereo at all times, and not just when the handbrake is up. I will not recommend this, and I don't recommend you watching videos while you drive. But I'm going to connect those two together to a butt connector, which leads to another wire. And then from there, it's going to go to a grounding point. And that should be it. So I'm going to go ahead and connect this to the stereo, run these wires, and try to get the stereo on. So the stereo is now plugged in, and the backup camera wire is ran. So I ran it all the way through here and through here. Through the back seats there is a hole, luckily, so I got the wire in through there. I still need to zip tie everything, so excuse the messy wiring. I ran the cable in through this grommet right here, and then down through this section here. And now the red and yellow wires that you guys saw earlier for the camera are now connected and taped up. As you can see here, they're just hanging. I still need to go back and zip tie everything once again. So the pink, there's a pink and a black wire that I ran. The pink wire, I ran it to the power cable on the reverse light, and then the black wire obviously to the ground. So I used some T-taps to tap into those wires, and now hopefully our camera should work perfect. So you can see here they're tapped in, the red to power and then black to ground, black to black. So everything is hooked up. Now we just gotta see if the stereo turns on and if the rear view camera works. And the last piece to this puzzle is connecting the microphone. I already ran the wire through the back of the stereo, through the back of the footrest, up into this pillar, and now it's just hanging here. I'm gonna run it across the headliner there and up to the driver's side, since this car is a right-hand drive, and we should be completely done with the stereo install, and then we just put everything back together. The stereo is finally on the car, man, and this, I gotta say, this thing looks so sick. Oh wait, let me show you guys. So the microphone, I ended up mounting it to the visor here for now. This is just temporary until I figure out like where to really put it, or to put some double-sided tape or something. But the stereo came out, well, the install came out great, and the camera actually works when you put the car in reverse. So that is pretty dope. To have that feature in a 90s car is pretty sick. So like I said, keep an eye out for that stereo video. It's coming up next. I'm going to show you guys all the features the stereo has and how well it actually works. I know I haven't made videos in a while. I just don't have an excuse. The videos have just been sitting on my phone and I haven't edited. I just haven't been feeling it lately, but I'm regaining my motivation. So I'm going to go ahead and start editing the videos once again for you guys. So with that being said, thank you guys so much for watching. Ed Range. Peace.